Hey guys, I'm Billy with P3 Tactical. Thanks for watching. We're going to mix it up a little bit today and talk about a subject that can be somewhat controversial and kind of cover where things are going with concealed carry pistols in this day, and that is with miniature red dot optics that are mounted to the slide of your concealed carry handgun. Got into a discussion with somebody earlier in the week on Instagram that kind of prompted this video to go over some main points, pros and cons about having a red dot on your daily carry pistol, and kind of what we think about it. It's interesting because this is kind of the second time as a gun community we've had this debate, right? We had the debate the first time around with rifles, right? Back in the day when the ARs and the various kinds of battle rifles started becoming popular, it was all iron sights, right? And then all of a sudden these optics started coming out and coming along, and there was kind of two camps. There was camp number one that kind of recognized the huge amount of benefits that having an optic on your rifle can offer, and realized that most of the cons that it would offer, there's easy ways to mitigate those cons and to work around them, and that the benefits far outweigh any of the price that you pay for having an optic on your rifle. And now we're in a place as a community where even civilians, you're hardly ever going to see any kind of AR, AK, whatever, without an optic on it. And the same thing goes for guys in the military and law enforcement, and we're seeing optics adopted just across the board, with the aim points and the EOTechs and the ACOGs and the various different kinds of really quality optics that are out there now. Pretty much everyone is realizing, okay, having an optic on your rifle is absolutely the way to go. Well, now we're having that same discussion with our pistols, and the battle lines are kind of drawn in a very similar place, right? And so let's just talk about, first of all, why would you ever want to have, just pros, a red dot optic on your pistol? One of the greatest downfalls in my mind with iron sights on a pistol is just the whole issue of focal planes, right? The idea is that if I really want to get off an accurate shot, I'm going to have to look at my target. I'm then going to have to focus back in to my front sight, make sure that it's lined up with my rear sight, which is a third focal plane, and I'm not even going to be focusing on my target while I'm shooting at it. That's going to be extremely difficult to do, right? Just because of the drive you're going to have naturally with that tunnel vision to focus on a threat in a real-world gunfight. When someone's shooting at you, you're not going to be staring at your gun. You're going to want to be looking at them. So what ends up happening a lot of times is that you have shooters that are great shooters, great front sight shooters on the range. They get in a real-world gunfight, and what usually ends up happening is that they just stare down their target and just start squeezing that trigger and basically point shooting as quickly as they possibly can. And so the whole focal plane issue with sights is one problem. This even becomes a bigger issue when we're transitioning from one target to another, right? Because now I have to find my target, come back to my sights, shoot, kind of recheck my target to see if it's neutralized or not, maybe come back to my sights and shoot again, recheck my target, number one. If it's taken care of, now I've got to transition to my next target, come back to my sights, go back to my target, come back to my sights, and it's just this huge in and out focusing war that is really, really difficult to master, and it's even more difficult to do under stress, again, when we start getting that tunnel vision that comes in, and it's going to be even more difficult to really do that kind of zoom in and out deal with our eyes, as quickly as we're going to need to. The nice thing about having a red dot is that it shows up crisp in the same focal plane as the target, right? What do I mean by that? If I just try to stare at this red dot, it's going to be blurry. But if I stare at my target and focus on my target, the dot is going to superimpose over the target and be completely crisp and clear. So the idea with shooting a red dot is that I just look at my target, bring the gun up, and the red dot is going to superimpose over the target. Very similar to where you would see with shooting a laser sight, presuming that it's working correctly. Only with a red dot, it's not going to matter whether it's day or night. It's going to be bright and crisp and clear and always there. So that's kind of gives you an idea of why you might want a red dot. The other idea behind focus, beyond focus, is just that having a red dot allows you to be much more precise if you are looking for that surgical accuracy type of shot. Sure, when you master iron sights on a pistol, you can be very accurate with them, but it's so much easier with a red dot because you basically eliminate the idea of sight alignment, right? You don't have a front sight and a rear sight that you have to line up. All you got to do is put that dot over the target and squeeze the trigger, and you know it's going to be right there. Additionally, the actual aiming point that you get from a red dot is usually much smaller than that large blade of the front sight post, so you can actually get a much more precise sight picture as well. So accuracy, sight planes are two of the big reasons that you really like to have a red dot on your pistol. Now, what are some of the cons? There's a lot of things people say. A lot of people say they're slower. I disagree with that, okay? You look at, and the way I can prove that is by saying you look at the best shooters in the world, in the fastest handgun shooting competitions in the world, things like Steel Challenge, and every single one of the top competitors is going to have a red dot on their pistol, right? Those are close range, speed shooting competitions, right? Where first shots are at, 3/4 of a second out of the draw, and you've got tenths of a second in between target transitions. And it's all about speed, and it's all about just hitting your targets as quickly as you possibly can. All of them are using red dots. Okay, so red dots are not slower. The reason people say red dots are slower a lot of times is because we have spent, the last 20 years or however long you've been shooting, learning how to shoot with iron sights. And then you pick up a red dot, and instead of thinking, okay, I need to start over and learn all the techniques behind how to shoot a red dot, they think that it should just happen right off the bat. Bottom line is, when a shooter picks up a red dot for the first time, if they've already mastered iron sights, they're probably not going to be quite as fast with that red dot. It's going to take time, it's going to take reps, and it's going to take training to perfect the red dot the same way it did with iron sights. So red dots really are not slower. The other thing that people say is a lot of times they don't tend to trust the technology, right? This is an old standby we heard all the time from the rifle conversation, right? And people say, well, your batteries are going to die. It's just, you're just going to have failures. And what we recognized over time is that when you buy these quality optics from companies like Aimpoint, Neotech, and Trijicon, and some of the others that are out there now, you're getting an incredible level of reliability out of these optics. You're getting battery life that's in the 1 year plus range, right? So as long as you change your batteries in your optic at least once a year, you don't have to worry about that, the batteries failing. And so we're seeing incredible reliability out of these optics. And the thing to remember is, and I can throw up a picture of what this sight picture looks like. We co-witness our iron sights with our red dot optic, meaning that we have both iron sights and our red dot on our pistol at the same time. So if my optic fails, I'm going to be able to see my iron sights and just switch over to using those. The other argument that people can sometimes have is that something can happen to your glass which will completely block your ability to see through your optic. Condensation is a big one that comes up a lot. Dirt and debris and these kind of things. Something that can occlude your glass, right, to use the fancy term for it. And that's going to prevent you from seeing, through your sights at all. That's why I probably should have brought this up to begin with. We're about to test that theory. As you can see, I've got tape over my red dot sight. Let me see if I can swing around and see through the camera to kind of show you. So you can't see through this red dot sight at all, right? Now, you can still see the dot, though. You can still see the dot on the glass. Let me get it lined up. This is harder than you might think. There we go. There it is. So you can still see the dot on the glass. You just can't actually see through the glass, right? The cool thing is, when I'm looking through the camera, there's only one lens that we're looking through, right? Your eyes are two lenses that are spread apart. So when I punch out with this gun, I'm going to be able to see my dot with my right eye, and my left eye is going to see the target. The trick about this is that as long as I'm focusing on my target with my left eye, my brain is just going to superimpose the outline of the gun, and especially the red dot, over my target. The bottom line is, and we're about to demonstrate this, you can actually shoot very accurately with a red dot sight, even if you can't see through the glass at all, whether from condensation, water, whatever the case may be. So we're going to demonstrate this in a couple different ways. I've actually set up, we're going to set up in a moment, a target downrange at 100 yards, and I'm going to attempt to shoot at it with this Glock 19 with the red dot completely taped over, not being able to use my sights at all. And we're going to see what we can pull off at 100 yards with the glass completely covered. Right? So those are some of the main kind of complaints that people get. But I think as we actually explore these issues, we're going to find out having a red dot is so much more beneficial than any, of the price you're going to pay or any of the so-called cons that people might be able to come up with. So let's test this out. And we're going to go throw up a target at 100 yards and see if we can hit it. Alright guys, there we go. Okay guys, here we go. So just to show you guys one more time, hopefully we got it on the camera last time. It's super hard to find the dot on here, but there's the dot that I'm looking at. You obviously can't see through the glass at all. Hopefully my tape's gonna stay on here. I just have one mag, 17 rounds of 9mm in here. Let's see what we can do. Alright guys, let's go see how we did. Alright, so it looks like, hopefully you can see, the rounds were actually falling a lot more than I expected. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 out of 17 at 100 yards. It looks like that some of them were falling a good bit farther than I actually expected. I was pretty much just aiming right here on the center point. So got a few misses in here, but as you can see, with the glass completely covered over, we're able to get a good number of hits on target at 100 yards, right? So at self-defense distances, it's probably not going to be an issue either, but let's try that out and see for ourselves. Okay guys, so we set up over here in a new spot. I've got the Bear Solutions standard target set up. This is a really cool target. I don't think I've filmed yet. I might do a separate video on it. Basically all I'm going to do is draw from the holster, shoot 5 shots in the box on the left, 5 shots in the box on the right, slide lock reload, 3 shots into the small circle in the center there. And I'm just going to shoot this again with my glass completely taped over, 100% occlusion. I can't see through it at all. Just to see at shorter self-defense distances, what kind of pace can we shoot at and what kind of hits we're going to be able to get, even if something catastrophic happened to our red dot, right? So let's go ahead and run this. Now, something else I wanted to mention to you guys is condensation. It's another buzzword people throw around a lot. That, oh, you know, if I'm in my car and I got air conditioning running, and all of a sudden I hop out into the, you know, hot, you know, Georgia sun or whatever they say, it's just going to fog up. I'm not going to be able to see anything. Well, not only am I shooting with the tape on, look what else I set up here. I've got my gun here for about the last 20 minutes set up in this cooler right here, just chilling on ice. So it's nice and cool, to say the least. And I gotta say, when I look through it, guys, I mean, that dot is still nice and crisp. I don't see any problems with it at all. So, but I'm gonna go ahead and run it this way just for the sake of it, and we'll see what happens. I'm gonna go ahead and load up, and then we'll go ahead and run it. Hold the last one. It's going so well. All right, let's take a look at it, guys. Not my best run, to be sure. My transition wasn't great. What I try to do when I'm shooting this target, guys, is make sure that basically it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, with not much more gap in between 5 and 6 than there was between 4 and 5. That makes sense. And obviously I pulled that last one, like I said, a little bit low, but all the rest of them are where we wanted to be. 5 in this box, 5 in this box, 2 in that one, and then that one's a little bit low, like we just mentioned. So, all that to say, guys, that at self-defense distances, we can still get this gun going pretty quick, and we can still do our job, even if we have, tape over our red dots so that we can't see through it at all. Just to summarize, we're talking about catastrophic failures that basically never happen, right? All the guys I've talked to that have been shooting these red dots for a long time, this kind of 100% occlusion I've never really seen before. Sure, you see one die now and then. Sure, you see the glass crack now and then. But really a situation where you can't see through this glass at all is not going to happen. Again, if the dot just dies and goes away, we still have that clear glass window to shoot with our sights. If the glass cracks, the dot's still going to be there, and I'm going to be able to see through that glass at least somewhat. The point of this, just to demonstrate, even if you have the worst catastrophic failure you can imagine, you're still going to be able to use it just fine. So, we proved it at short range, and again at the long, precise range for 100-yard shooting. I think we're going to wrap it up here, guys. We could talk about red dots for hours. At least I could. It's already a pretty long video. If there's any concerns you guys have you want me to cover, please let me know in the comments. I'll try to answer those as quickly as I can and maybe film a second video if there's a desire for one. So feel free to let me know what you guys think about red dots, and if you have any other questions or concerns. My mind's pretty much made up here. That I think what we're seeing is most of the concerns people have with red dots are just not valid. If you actually get out on the range and test them in those conditions and see how they perform. And we're seeing just such improvement in the technology, every day. This is a Type 1 RMR. The Type 2 is supposed to be even, just that next level, so much better. There's other ones out there now, like the Delta Point Pro. Aimpoint just came out with a miniaturized red dot optic for pistols, specifically designed for pistols, within just the last couple days of when I'm filming this video. So it's just going to keep on getting better and better and better. And I think that red dots are absolutely the wave of the future, not only for concealment and, civilian use, but also for law enforcement, military. I think we're going to start seeing red dots on just every single pistol out there, like we see optics now on all of our rifles. So anyway, guys, hope that was helpful and informative. Again, let me know if you want to see anything else. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. It would help us out a lot. Really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one.